we are have kind of a crisis going on in the U.S. is that 2 out of 3 adults are overweight, and the more complicated our society gets, the more likely we can go to food for many reasons, not just for hunger.
The precautionary principle should always apply. Should we make a huge experiment with large populations who are eating things that were not available until 50 to 100 years ago? And now suddenly that's almost entirely the entire diet. Everything they eat is processed. In answering a question like what is nutrition, a person has to think of the extremely broad concept of what comes into the mouth.
The foundations of healthy eating is to eat real food, to eat healthy food that is wholesome, and to eat in a way that's a food that you enjoy eating, taste that you love, to make sure you're doing this all out of good self-care.
Most of the opinions people have are based on what they have either learned at home from their parents or friends or immediate sphere of influence as they were growing up, and the media.
It starts with your parents, and my mother was actually in the healthcare field.
I was raised with my mom, obviously making the meals, homemaker. She was raised on a farm. It was very basic food. It was, I think back now, probably not as nutritious as it could have been, but they didn't know better.
In the last 10 years or so, a great deal of progress has been made in the science of nutrition. Putting this knowledge to use in the form of healthier, more nutritious recipes is the work of the home economist.
Okay, well, nutrition is a very young science, which is usually surprising to people that we just learned about the structure of protein in the 1950s. So this idea of learning about food and how our body processes it and metabolizes and what we even need, and then what's happened is once we learned about that, instead of sticking with food, that's where I think nutrition has gone more towards functional foods and and supplements have become really big. Like those will be what we need because we've dissected nutrition so much.
We used to be an agrarian society. We used to have less people in the cities than we had everywhere else. And things have changed. Our so-called civilization, which is trying to run away from nature, learn to be afraid of it instead of understand that this is where we came from. This is where we used to feel most comfortable for tens of thousands of years.
Yeah, well, our art pretty much depicts our art, Rembrandt's and all the big women sitting around and big men sitting around and very heavy, because that was the sign of wealth. Back in a time when food was limited, being bigger was the sign of wealth and having enough money to eat and overeat. And then as food became more, we became more secure with our being able to have enough food, I think things started switching. And then also what sells is to try to ask people the opposite of what they've done. and so part of that is marketing, and then being thinner in a time of abundance became the more difficult thing to do and the thing that you would need a lot of products and a lot of help with. Become a big business. It used to be we just eat. It's become a big business. It's become more scientific in the way that even when we go to fast food to eat, they have scientifically figured out from our taste buds how much salt and sugar and what combination we like. So it's become a very, very scientific in that way. On the good side of science, it's also become scientific in that we now understand diseases better, and we understand how we digest food, and we understand the connection between food and health in a very scientific way. But we also have taken that knowledge and used it to make money by making products and having people believe they need the products.
They have designed the food. They have designed the food to be irresistible. I mean, I was just reading a book about the palatability of food. It's a science.
We humans are brainwashed to think that they are food. And that's what covers or fills up most of our shopping bags in the supermarket. And it is easy to make good income on long shelf life products. That is why we listen to advertisers, which are very capable in making us think that this is the best food for us, when we in fact ignore the vast majority of the food that is natural.
No, nobody likes to think they're being manipulated. Nobody does, but we are. It's just our culture. You can't get away from it.
Most of the time, it is not for the benefit or to the benefit of the population, but this is their view of nutrition. This is why they keep changing their opinions every time the so-called experts change their opinions.
The marketing that goes on is constant. It comes at you from every angle. And yeah, I would say it's very confusing.
They put out every, whatever's the day du jour, like a while ago was don't eat fat. Okay, so everything was fat-free, but they upped the sugar in it to make it taste good. So yeah, they can make it very confusing. It's marketing. They've marketed our food. They'll take soda crackers and tell them they're healthy because they don't have trans fat. Well, they're not. They're just fun food, but they're not good for you. So yeah, nutrition can be, the whole culture of it can be very confusing.
What do we do? What is the right thing to do? People don't even know basic premises of diet, except for, yes, we should avoid artificial things. Yes, we should eat wholesome foods. But beyond that, there's a lot of confusion. And it is generated by the media, the advertisements, and by the so-called experts who are hired either by the media or hired by the drug companies to generate information that is beneficial to those corporations.
Oh, there is so much nutrition information and misnutrition information piled on, and I think our government even plays a role in it. We've got this food pyramid idea that we're supposed to, and they update it all the time, and it's pretty worthless, I think. And from early on in elementary school, they're pushing very severe, like how many grams of fat kids are supposed to eat.
I think that as a basic guide, I do believe in the food pyramid. I don't think it's critical to follow it to the letter, but certainly you have to have fruits, a balance of fruits and vegetables.
We live in a society that we subsidize our corn and our soy, and that's what goes into all our processed foods. So that's cheap and fruits and vegetables are more expensive. So we have this whole food system that's based on unhealthy food is cheap and healthy food is more expensive. So I think the government plays a role in its farm bill, from how it subsidizes food all the way to there, to its food programs that it provides people who are lower income, to the educational material that they offer to, that teachers a lot of times access. And I think they play, they're not the main, they're part of the puzzle, they're a piece of it, but they definitely play a role in why we are a country that has extra weight, carrying around lots of extra weight right now.
You're hungry, you see McDonald's, probably there's a smell coming out too, so you're affected that way. I remember when the kids were little and taking them somewhere, at the paint store, I think that was kind of a classic. I'm going to buy paint and I have little kids with me. Why would I think about food? Well, there was a soda machine, there was candy, machines, and of course little kids, that's what they're attracted to, they're colorful. And I just realized it's everywhere.
In this country, food is junk in many times, in many places, and we treat it like junk.
We've become afraid to eat, or we're trying to eat not to get disease, and we forget about hey, let's eat for the joy of it, let's eat for the taste of it, let's eat for the health and the community and the society and socialness and the eat local, and let's eat good healthy food. We forget that part because there's so many, we're coming from the negative side of it or the don't do side of it, and I think that's very common to come from that end of it.
We are manipulated in society to buy things, to want the next. Why do we change our styles? Why do we buy different cars? It's a big picture. I mean, you're touching on a huge thing. Food's huge.